Okay, we're starting.
Okay.
Welcome to the Bay Area Women's Theater Festival Amplify Artist Conversations. I am Tina D'Alois. I'm an instigator on the Amplify team. With theaters closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, our Amplify 24-hour performances event, originally scheduled at Brava Theater for April 18th and 19th, with 70 plus performers of over 200 artists, is on hold, but we refuse to allow the need for social distancing to keep us from amplifying our amazing women and non binary and trans artists' work. So today we are in conversation with the amazing Roberta
Oh,
D'Alois, and we will talk with you, Roberta, about your journey as a writer and performer, and occasional director, mostly for solo performers. Hello, Dolores.
that's me.
Hello, Roberta Dolores. How are you?
I'm good. Like everybody else or many people, I'm sure I'm good and stressed and worried, but getting a lot of support, giving a lot of support to my fellow artists and companions. So far, so good.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
I
Um,
just I feel the need to say, like, I know a lot of people aren't okay. I just wanna honor that. Like,
yeah,
I'm really
yeah,
okay, but I know there are so many people suffering, so I don't wanna say, "Yeah, I'm great," right? Because it hurts that there's, so many people just struggling for shelter and food. So,
yeah.
I know that this pandemic has had, a worldwide effect to many, many people who are struggling. So, I am very grateful to have the support and the resources that I do. I'm gonna just add that as well.
I hear you. I hear you, and thank you for that. Yes, yes, indeed. Um, I feel like every day there's so much coming at us, and I have to
Mhm.
pause throughout the day of all the losses we're having and the
Mhm.
struggles that are
Mhm.
happening. So I appreciate you saying that. I would love to first hear more about and learn more about your journey as an artist. And what's so exciting is I still can't figure out which Bay Area event I've heard
I know, right?
phenomenal reading the performance of your work. But I kept looking at your name and I would be like, oh
No,
yeah,
totally, yeah.
Roberta. And then I went onto your YouTube channel and I'm like, oh my
Uh-huh.
gosh, how far back do I want to go? And I just want to say I
Exactly,
am
right.
a fan of your voice
Well,
and the way
thank
you tell
you. Thank you
stories.
so much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Well,
And so
thank
I'd
you.
love to hear from you about your journey as an artist.
Yeah, well, I started out quickly as a solo performer back in the days when I'm sure that's when I met you, Tina, either at Brava or maybe at the Marsh. Hard to remember those early days, but we all knew each other. All the solo performers. It was a new thing happening. It was something that there was no roadmap. There were no barriers really. If you wanted to do a show, it was just you put up a show, get somebody to help you, and you had a show. So I told mostly personal stories, my own life. Hopefully our lives are interesting to others. So I was able to do that pretty successfully for a long time. But then the need to amplify, I keep using that word, it's such a great word, amplify other voices. There's only so many people you can talk to as yourself on stage, right? So I began
Right.
writing, multi-character plays with people who weren't very much like me. And then I realized I don't really know what I'm doing. I know how to tell stories in my own life, but I went back to school at a pretty advanced age and learned playwriting, learned, conflict and character and stage magic, all that great stuff. Um, so I feel now like I have a lot of tools in my proverbial toolbox. Um, but after having, some success, as a playwright and having some work performed, I work with Shots here in the Bay Area. We do 5-minute plays in bars, which is really fun. And we have a fantastic group of writers and performers and actors and directors. Um, I I kept feeling like I gotta, especially, and again, not tying every single thing to the election. It's like I gotta get back to my roots. I gotta get back to my story. I gotta get back to who I am on stage. And so when I applied for Amplify, I had a play I was working on that I thought would be a really good fit. But when I first applied, I got back a response of, we're getting a lot of requests from middle aged women to tell their stories. And I said, yeah, because guess what? We don't get to do that very often. We are invisible. And as a person of privilege, I'm certainly, more visible than many, but um, we are not heard and seen on stage except through the male gaze in many cases. So I just got really excited to work on a new solo piece that's really about my coming to California and finding out who I was and being myself in a way that I was not when I was back east. So um, it's a solo piece, but it's also using all the craft and techniques that I've used as a playwright. So I'm very excited about that.
That's exciting. What is your new solo piece called that you're
It's called California Dreamin', and it's really a set off of, am I East Coast? Am I West Coast? Am I in between? The people I met, the people who have guided me on my journey, the people I left behind for good reason in some cases, and some really interesting characters I've met along the way and what I've learned.
That's great. And
Yeah.
when did you start? Yeah, and when did you also start becoming, a teacher as well, or and a coach as well, or
Oh my
director as
goodness, yeah,
well? Was that
everything happens for a reason, right? I went back to graduate school in 2008 in the middle of the recession. Great timing. And I was about to finish my playwriting program when someone said, if you take these extra classes before you graduate, you can teach. So I did. And now I teach both at state and at USF. I teach various things. I've taught, first year writing, second year writing. I've taught playwriting. I also work with the Ollie Center with seniors, teaching them solo performance techniques, playwriting, analyzing plays, seeing plays. But my calling as a teacher has turned out to be a very different path than I expected. I teach primarily business writing right now, and I don't mean to this is not a put down of myself, right? But many people can teach creative writing. I've had many creative mentors and teachers and instructors. It's not that it's easy, but there are many wonderful creative writing teachers out there. Not everybody can work with students who are struggling to find their place in the world, to find um, a place where they can have resources on their own, but also many of my students are very connected to their families and their culture, where they can be true to themselves. A lot of the business writing that's taught is like, here's how you do a resume, here's how you do a cover letter, here's how you do an email. And that's great. We all should know how to do that, right? Um, but to listen to, and again, I'm a storyteller, I'm also a story receiver. So to listen to my students, to hear where they are, I get I cheer up in class, so that's not even new. But I've had students tell me things like, I wasn't literate in any language till I was 16. I was homeless throughout high school. I flunked out of college 3 times before I came back. I mean, these are rich, amazing stories that I my feel like my role is use those stories to be in the place that you want to be. Yes, there are challenges. They are nothing to be ashamed of. They are nothing to say I'm not as good as that person who went to Stanford or who went to Cal or went whatever. I'm better
yeah.
because I will work to the bone to help my family and my life and my family and my friends. So I have a unique role with my students. I'm not their friend. It's really clear. I don't, I want to be your friends, right? Um,
Mhm.
but I'm a mentor, I'm a coach, I'm somebody who will listen to them, who will actually help the main thing we do all semester is, what's your dream? What's your dream job? Why is it your dream? How can you get there? What story can you tell others that will have them invest in your dream, whether it's emotionally or financially or whatever? So it's a gift. I feel like I'm so lucky and blessed. It's a gift that I can take all those years I worked those crappy jobs to write, all those office jobs I held, all those things I did to help me get where I am now. I can use that experience to help others be who they want to be. And that's just it's amazing. it informs my creative writing more than it detracts from it by far.
That is fantastic and wonderful, and I'm like, "Oh my god, what a great mentoring example as
Well,
a
thank you.
teaching
Thank
artist and
you.
as an artist." Yes, and I'd love to know, in your craft, was there ever a point where you felt like, "Oh, I have to give this up," whether it was other people or whether it was because you were finding your way, "I'm gonna make money," or maybe it happened more
Right,
than
right.
once? And then
Oh,
what
every
sort and
day.
then
I give up at least once a day. Not quite. There have been definite times that I can map where a particular opportunity didn't come through, or I've written a piece of work that I feel is really wonderful and it's gotten, some very negative feedback, or people aren't as entranced with it as I am. Um, the thing that keeps me going almost more than anything else, to be really honest, is years ago, one of my mentors from the Dramatists Guild said, no one asks you to be an artist. No one
Mhm,
invites you and says, please be an artist. It's you. You decide that you're an artist, right? No one's going to pave the way for you. No one's going to open a door for you that you don't like push open yourself to some extent. Um, and that keeps me going in a funny way. Like, well, I have to want to do this. If I don't want to do it, no one's going to help me do it. So I'm also struck by something Rilke said, which is, um,
mhm,
would you rather would you rather write if you couldn't if you wouldn't rather die than not write, then you're not a writer. And I really feel like if I didn't write, I don't know how else I would live. So in a sense, I don't have a
mhm,
choice in a funny way, but um, I get certainly I have down days, down months. It's challenging. I didn't go to the right schools and know the right people, especially as a playwright. Solo performer, not so much,
mhm,
but as a playwright, it's like I didn't go to the right school. I don't have the right agent, whatever. It's very easy to feel like I'm not worth it. Um, but then when I do have opportunities that come through, the people I meet, the audiences who are so responsive and so gracious, and again, I feel like I have on my tagline, you might have seen in my email. Um,
mhm,
I really feel like my mission is to create beautiful, challenging work that improves the world. So I tell
mm,
all the stories I tell, whether it's a play or a solo piece, are usually about people that, again, I love that word amplify, whose stories don't get amplified. Not that they're not my stories, but to examine things like drug use in major league sports, women who are recovering from sexual and physical abuse, um, not that I just tell stories about people who have challenges, but um, that's part of what keeps me going. I have a lot of challenges in my own life I've had to overcome. So writing and being an artist helps me not just process those issues, but helps me give a voice maybe to others who are sharing those issues. So the feedback I get from audiences about how
mhm.
authentic my work is really what keeps me going a lot of the time.
Oh, that's great. Anything that you feel like you hear as themes from the feedback you get from
Wow. People, I think authenticity is what rings true for me. I have a story. One of my first solo pieces, I had an audience member come up after me and say, you know, you really nailed what it's like to be in jail, because I've been there and I know. And it was just like, it was
Mhm,
really unexpected. Like, yeah,
mhm,
what was the person was not a friend or somebody I knew. But that's what I get the most often, that in terms of craft, like my dialogue, the conflicts, not just that they're realistic, because they're often not, but they're authentic. My most recent play is about a young woman who creates a virtual reality app to help herself heal from sexual abuse. It's not
mm,
realistic in the sense that she goes into these different worlds and examines like the what if kind of history of her life. It's not realistic exactly, but people tell me it's really authentic. People who work with survivors say, yeah, that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like to shut down. That's what it feels like to come back from being shut down. So I think that's the most helpful feedback I get, is when people are able to see that it's authentic in some way.
mm. Um, I'm so excited when Amplify, also on the stage, is back up and running, so
Yay!
I can see
Yay!
your work. I can see California Dreaming. Yay! Um, right now in your life, are you also working on multiple projects? Is there
Oh my
other
gosh.
ways of getting your voice out?
I am I always try to have what's challenging about the current crisis is that it's shut down my new writing. I haven't written anything new, for a few months now. But I have, I say a play I'm working on. I'm working on a solo piece. I'm also doing a piece of I don't know if it's going to wind up being investigative journalism or a performance piece. I'm not sure what form it will take, but I'm interviewing um, artists of color who were alive in the 60s who can speak about kind of the failed dreams of the 60s revolution, if you want to call it that. Um,
Mhm,
from looking back on those days and looking back on what's happened since then, um, the revolution was really about white people. It didn't include a lot of people of color in terms of what's happened now as a result of those challenges and changes. So I'm interviewing a number of amazing, not just artists, but college professors, other people who were alive at those times, and their descendants. Actually, some of them have kids and grandkids who talk about their current challenges. That's kind of a multi-moving part
mm,
piece that's been going on for about a year and some. Um, I'm also picking up a project that I started a couple of years ago. I was a fellow at Yerba Buena Center, right?
mhm,
There was the first January after the election or February, and our challenge was to investigate why citizenship. And I did a lot of, again, interviewing. We had a day of project. People came to see our projects. A lot of on the spot interviewing about why citizenship? Is it relevant anymore? Do we need to think about citizenship in a different way? And the stories, again, the stories I heard from people, the experiences I had talking with people, both, documented people, undocumented people, people who were here as refugees, people who were here asking for asylum, people who'd been here forever, who saw those challenges in a very different way. I had an interviewee who brought me the paperwork he had to complete to become a citizen here. And I swear to God, it's like 5 feet tall, right? Um, so I'm going back to that project to see if there's, again, not something so much to mine, but it seems relevant in a different way now. It seems more relevant in the toxic way we talk about citizenship. And I'd like to investigate that a
mhm.
bit more. So yeah, I've always got more than one thing going on for sure.
I love it. I love that you have more than one thing going on, and that sounds like a really riveting project as well, and so important at this time. Um, you are very inspiring, Roberta.
Thank
Is there
you. Thank
anything
you.
else? Yes, you're welcome. It's true. Is there anything else that you want to share with us right now at this time? Um,
I will just say, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. It was really unexpected. When I got the email, I was just really delighted. Um, I want to just say to anybody who's listening, um, I'm an artist and I don't feel like I have a lot of tangible power. Like I'm not famous, I'm not rich, whatever. But the power I do have is to be an ally. And the power I do have, I get so frustrated in the days when I was leaving my house. When I see that our government, both local and national, et cetera, has really subverted the phrase, if you see something, say something. Again, it's become this, again, a toxic phrase. If you see somebody suspicious, um, I am inspired to use it as an ally. If you see something wrong, say something, do something. Don't just let somebody you know, uh, on a bus, be the victim of somebody calling them names. Or if you see something in the world or something in politics, if you see something going on, it's easy to, I mean, I love Facebook politics. Like I love being active and having those resources, especially now. But you
mhm.
can call, you can write, you have a voice, even if it's not very loud or it hasn't been amplified for a long time. The best example I can give, make a really long story short, um,
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to be invited twice to go to a theater conference in Alaska. When Alaska was looking at slashing their budget, all of us artists wrote and emailed and called. I had so many conversations with Alaskan representatives saying, look, I'm an artist who comes to Alaska every year. I spend money in your state. Please don't cut these programs. You're cutting off, your nose to spite your face. And we got heard, we got not as much as we wanted to, but you can do things that you can't imagine you'd be able to do if you just let your voice be heard. So really, if you see something, say something. And that's all
Yes,
I'd like
and
to share.
thank you. I'm snapping to that.
All right.
Yes. Yes, indeed. And thank you, yes, for plugging being an ally in that regards. Um, Again, Roberta, this conversation has been so inspiring. Thank you for
Thank
your
you. Oh.
artistry. Thank you for
Ooh.
your long-term hard work, your excellence, your phenomenal work as an artist and writer and solo performer, and as a coach and a teacher and a mentor. And we are thrilled to have you as part of this
Yay.
platform for Amplify. Yay! And as a way to showcase your work and take up space. And thank you
Yes.
out there, everyone. Thank you out there for listening. Thank you out there for supporting. There's ways you can support and learn more about Roberta D'Alois. Her website is www.robertadalois.com. Her Twitter is Squeak Rad. Oh my God, I
Yeah.
love that. So literally, Squeak Rad,
Yeah.
SQUEAKRAD. Ah. And you can also support and give a donation to Roberta's work on PayPal. And Roberta's PayPal is lbpsf at AOL.com. That is lbpsf at AOL.com. And please stay tuned for the rescheduling of the Bay Area Women's Theater Festival Amplify
Yay.
24-hour performance event. Yay! By visiting our
Come see us.
website.
Yay.
Yay! Come see us. And Roberta, thank you for being part of the
Oh,
Amplify
you're so
event
welcome.
and joining
Of
us
course.
today. We look forward to be able to show your work. I don't know if we'll be able to show if you have the full show or just a part of your show.
It's going to be a chunk. It's a good chunk. So yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. So we'll be able to see. So you out there will be able to see a chunk of Roberta's fabulous show, and um, please, if you can, make a donation, small or large as you wish to the Bay Area Women's Theater Festival as well. And as a commitment to our art, which is unchanged, we are still amplifying women plus voices for everyone. Thank you so much, Roberta, and thank you all for
Thank
listening.
you. Of course.
Woo!